And now, wainatambora toka sa kabuha mawa nifa. Wadukotachika wa fuji yo chino wakilibeno mo. Halika wan kanshi ni, halika wan karo kwa kakubur kwa ni. Nako Lokono wakilibeche. Nako marichiche. Nako kunachi to horodo jako. A marichiche hamairon. Audoche to horodo bia. Wakubur kwa halikano bia. To wanshika wadukotombia nako Lokono mo. To kasakabo wanshika baburo atendao. Hama wanyifa abo. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, my elder. So I will now translate, or I should say interpret what Auntie Eileen just said. Before we begin our presentation, we must pay respect and acknowledge our ancestors, the Lokonos, and the other indigenous nations who trod, built, and died on and for these lands. We ask your blessings on today's proceeding. Thank you. The Lokono Nation were known across, the Lokono nations were known to be scattered across the coastal areas of Guyana, Suriname, French Guyana, and Venezuela. However, there are also Lokonos all over the Caribbean, the Netherlands, in Brazil, and today even in the US and Canada. The language of the Lokonos, known to us as Lokojang, is sadly becoming moribund, or as we say in Creolese, it's near for dead. With very few speakers in the various communities in Guyana, Lokojang has become a language of the elders. Fluent speakers are between 70 to 75 years and older and are slowly decreasing. A small amount of folks ages 50 to 70 understands but do not speak the language. And the younger generation merely recognizes the sound of Lokojang. The mother language of today's Lokonos has shifted to Creolese, and then they are forced to learn English in our schools, as this is referred to as our country's official language. How do we revitalize Lokojang? I've asked myself this question more times than I can count. And as time changes, and with knowledge gained from experiences within the field of language, my conclusion is through education. It takes 3 generations to revitalize a language, and true revitalization occurs when the young children grow with the language and continue to speak it. Unfortunately, 3 generations may be too far-fetched for Lokojang. Therefore, we need to educate the Lokonos on the importance of keeping Lokojang alive, create ways and means of motivation, incorporate the language into music, art, drama, and slowly into everyday life. Sit with the elders, listen, record their stories. Traditional knowledge must be preserved. The education system in our country clearly doesn't cater for us, the indigenous people, and for our language. Why is Spanish and French more important than Lokojang and the rest of the indigenous languages? We need to be heard, my people. We need to take urgent steps to revitalize and preserve our languages. My community, Wakapau, was said to have the largest amount of Lokojang speakers. However, over the past 2 decades, the speakers have decreased drastically, and efforts to preserve our language has proven to be challenging for us. The lack of education has been a constant setback for us. Therefore, there is much need for intervention from the brilliant linguistic minds. One such person is my dear sister, Dr. Deirdre Smith-Telfer, who has been known to the people of Wakapau since 2003. She has had the opportunity to learn from a great and proud Lokono, my mother, Mrs. Joan Thomas. It is from this exchange of knowledge that I proudly speak to you today as a language activist for my people. We have also had the opportunity to have visits from the folks of University of Guyana, and more so the Guyanese Languages Unit, with the important folks, I should say, that took the time out to travel to our humble community to help us to see the importance of language revitalization. People like Professor Ian Robertson, Ms. Charlene Wilkinson, Dr. Tamir Delissa, Ms. Daneswari Juggernaut, and Seneca Henry, just to name a few. Yes, we have had a chance to learn from these folks. On the screen, you can see a flyer of what Dr. Smith had created, of the work she did with us in the community, more so with my mother and the other folks. But yet still, we, the people of Wakapau, there is more need for us to be involved. We cannot depend on outside help. We have to be willing to learn and willing to preserve our language. We have to keep the fire blazing. We have to preserve for the next generation. Speak to the young children. Teach them all that you know. Let them sit with the elders and listen. There was one such woman in my community who I truly admired, but sadly, she passed. That was Auntie Sarah Smith of Wakapau. She spoke to her grandchildren every day in Lokojang. And when I listened to the young lady, she was about 11 years old. And when she responded to her grandma, I feel so proud to know that this young child understands and is speaking her language. And this is what we need. We need our people to have more love for the language, to see the importance of the language so that we can preserve it. We can revitalize and preserve our language. But it is not easy. It is not easy for us. It's a very hard task. In a community where there's no employment for the majority of residents, it is difficult to find volunteers. The younger generation seeks the fastest way out of our community, and the others are simply too busy trying to put food on the table for their families. I know the elders are willing to teach a listening ear, but what is a listening ear with an empty stomach? We need changes to accomplish Lokojan revitalization and preservation, changes in our economic system, changes in our school system, and most importantly, changes in our attitude towards the revitalization of the mother language of the Lokono nation. We live in a world of advanced technology. Preservation of our language should not be this difficult. From a toddler to a senior can look at the screen and learn. So the same way the University of Guyana can keep a conference, the same way we can work together to achieve the revival of our mother's language. Happy International Mother Languages Day to you all.